He kōna I purangi tēnei nā te reo irirangi o Aotearoa.
Tūtapa mai kawa, te kawa nui, te kawa roa, kawa I runga, kawa I raro, kawa ki te wao tapu nui a tāne whakairi hea ki runga kia tīna, hui e, tai ki.
Ea kura rangatira mā, nau mai hara mai ki tēnei wahanga o Paewhiri, ki tēnei whare o te tīrairaka, karere atu tēnei kaupapa, kai mua ia koutou. Nō reira ko te manako ia a me tahuri mai o koutou tāringa, ki ngā kōrero reka e hari ake nei. Myself, te kehu e ngairo, we're back in the whare, and today we are talking about the various, Matua, you had a beautiful analogy this morning, but I'll let you explain it. The various ways of learning te reo Māori. Yes, we have institutions and marae, but what are some other ways to learn? Because Matua's involved in a really cool kaupapa that I think you might want to share with us. The various ways of learning te reo Māori organically, by registration in the kāinga. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, well, by and large, most of my days are spent in a formal language learning setting. So I do a bit of mahi here at Te Whare Wānanga Waikato ki Tauranga. Also do a bit of mahi with Te Wānanga Aotearoa. So those are formal language classes and probably geared mostly towards second language learning. So there are things you do with second language learners who perhaps have a dominant language or dominant languages prior to coming to learn in those spaces. It's not all of them. Some of them are, native learners, so they grew up in Māori-speaking environments, but perhaps just wanted to add to their kite in terms of their own learning. So it's what I'd call a formal learning space. So we set our sequence of learning and add in sort of assessment periods along the way. So that's how you would sort of stage a formal learning language program.
When you talked about having native speakers in your classroom, and honestly, when I was doing learning te reo Māori with Te Pīnakitanga in Wellington, we had some brilliant speakers in our class, and moku ake te whakaroa hau, hea te take kai konei koe. I mean, but you're right, it's tahina ki their kite, but you think, if they've got the language already, I think, why are they here?
Everyone comes in at different levels.
Yeah.
Even if they come in quite well equipped, perhaps for a lesson or lessons or series of lessons or a course of learning that they aim to take up, they've probably identified with themselves that it actually still offers them something. So,
true.
Frontward appearance, very competent, perhaps a language speaker, writer, or can express quite confidently and competently. But of course, they may have identified within their own pathway that there are things that they want to pick up along the way, just to strengthen their own language base.
Yeah, beautiful.
So people come in at different levels
Not
and
just
with different
te reo.
reasons. So,
Did we say it's not just about te reo? Would you say because they have te reo, it's more about?
Well, if someone's acquired the language, then language acquisition is probably not their major driver, but they're looking perhaps to not flatten out, but broaden, let's say, their word base.
Kupuhau.
AI. Different ways to express. Because when you grow up in a native language setting, you are well endowed with that language setting, but you're not necessarily so well endowed in other language settings. So this is a way to sort of broaden out your experience.
Listening to him talk, wetahi o ngā kaumātua kāri te, ki wēnei a kumangara, tā koe te reo. I'd be one of those. I'd need to go in there, take my empty kete and learn ngā kupuhau. That's where I get lost in these new words. Back in the day, one kaupapa, ko tahi te kupu. Engari nainei, ko tahi te kahi, ko tahi te kaupapa, engari e maha hoki ngā kupu.
Ngā kupu.
Koe nā te wā, ka ngaro atu ke mātou ngā kaumātua neha. Te maha hoki o ngā kupu. Me kōrero au, pera I te hoiho ne. Ana, wetahi o ngā hoiho, he hoiho rehi.
A horse.
Tere rawa ki te oma, tere rawa ki te mau I ngā kupu. Nera ki te pinachi. Ana wetahi atu, he hoiho kaumātua pēnei ahau, pōturi ana te oma, pōturi ana te mau i ngā kupu, ka ngaro, ka whatsi. A koe nā te ahua tana o ngā kaumātua i nāe nei nā. Engari kia hau nei nā, ki te kore whai atu i tēnei ki reo o nāia nei, kai muri kē koe, ara, i te whio reo te hoiho.
E ko tērā momo hoiho ko te draft hoiho.
The draft.
The draft hoiho.
Te hoiho kaumātua.
So hia te hoiho kai wainga i te hoiho terera.
Oi, ki mai ke taku hoa nei, he iho nei, he donkey.
He hiho. Ko te
Koe
hoiho,
tērā.
he hiho.
Koe tērā te io. Nā pai tērā analogy, matua. And so there's a sense of, but you're open to learning. You're open to learning those e rā momo kupu.
O koe nā te kōrero ai, there's never ending to learning. You know, and miharo roa atu, ki te atu i ngā kaumātua e haere ana ki we nei aho mana.
Ai, tika.
I ngā kupu hau. You know, sharpen themselves up, to broaden their knowledge.
Hia tērā whakatauki, it's never too old to learn new tricks. You're never too old to learn new tricks, Pea.
Yeah, never too old. But yes, a knife cutting meat, eh? If the knife is
Stay
blunt,
sharp,
you can't cut the meat.
Aye.
So your
to
your
throw the meat
hinengaro
at
is
it.
your knife, eh? Your hinengaro is your knife.
Aye.
To sharpen it, there
Gotta
it
put
is,
it on
the
the,
mātauranga, eh?
Ooh.
Slice through it like butter.
So when you go to this whare, you've got pakeke who are willing. Sorry, so just to give you some context, so every Thursday evening, matua goes to a whare with several pakeke there who are willing to share a kai, kaputi, and kōrero Māori to have an environment that is just kōrero ahakoa, he kōrero serious, he kōrero ngahau, but ko te mea nui ko te kōrero i te reo Māori. Tika? So how long have you been doing it for? And
Ko tahi tau, piki ake pēr te roa. I timatai mā tau, i te whakamahi i te ngā rākau nea, te ātārangi. Muri mai i tēnā, puta mai kei ue tahi, mai te whare o Aotearoa, ka mea tau ki a rātau, he lia mai o ko tau mahi ki konei, you know, tukai nei ki wai nui ta whanau nei nā. Muri mai i tēnā, ka mea mai taku whanaunga. Hei, me whakakorengi te kōrero Pākehā. Me hoke atu rā tātou ki te wā ia māua e tamariki ana ne, te noho, te whakarono, te titiro. Ana koe nā te mahi i nai nei.
so no speaking English.
E wiki, ka haere atu, ka whakakōwhiri hia tētahi kaupapa, ka tahi, ka kōrero hia, i roto i te reo.
Choose a kaupapa.
Ko ki te au, mai te tīmatanga, i tēnei ki wā i nai nā, ko āhua wai a kē rātau ki te kōrero. Wētahi wā, ka ngaro, ka huri atu ki te reo Pākehā, me atu ke māua ko taku whanaunga. Kei te pai tērā, engari, mā māua e āwhina i a kōtau, ka whakamaoritia, ke mohi o ai kōtau. Engari, e koena tētahi mea hoki ko ngā kupu ne, i te tīmatana, te whakatoko tō kōrero, koena te mea ua ki a rātau ne, rerenga kupu, me pēhea. I nai nei, ko ahua pai te haere i nai nei, but i nai nei nā koena ko ngā kupu.
Ka pai. We're going to take a little break, te whānau. This is Paewhiri.
Pai tū, pai hinga, pai kare, pai whiri.
Tēnā tātou katoa e te whānau. This is Paewhiri, our kōrero session. Welcome back with myself, Justine Murray, Te Kehu Pātara and Ngairo Eruwera. In this show, in this episode, we're talking about the various ways nā momo ara ki te aku i tō tātou reo Māori. And I love that horse analogy. You know, some are bolt out the gate and are very fast and they just want to go over the finish line in terms of their reo Māori journey. And, you know, good on them. Pai te rei. And then there's others, the draft horse analogy, te hunga kaumātua. I'm trying to figure out where I fit somewhere in, not quite in that fast mode, but still trudging along.
I fit in the boot of the horse, you lift the tail up, that's my area.
So when it comes to learning te reo Māori, there's in the home various whare mā tauranga. And I think one way that's helped me is by just reading. Yeah, reading, kupu hau or tiaka, technology. Tiaka, it's on my phone. It's with me, obviously, everywhere. ChatGPT, I'm using a little bit more now, to be honest, when I can't find any kupu Māori that's in the books or on my app. And, that's one way. I need to get my hands on the Mātauranga Māori book by Haerenga Mead, actually. But yeah, koera tētahi, that's one way that I learn te reo Māori, or to continue to at least read te reo Māori every day. I haven't yet I've got a couple of te reo Māori books from that Māori Puka Puka 100 Hare Pota that I haven't quite got to yet. So yeah, that's me basically.
Gee, too much.
Which is why I thought my journey's going a little bit maroke at the moment. So I just need to, lift my game a little bit, I think. Anyway.
Kei te pai, sister, you don't have to be hard on yourself.
Yeah, true.
There's always things we can do.
Yes.
I'm in the te reo Māori speaking environment quite a lot, but there's always things you can improve on. I think Kiriama mentioned it, that in his hikoi, initially he had to learn to not be so hard on himself. And I think that's an important factor. It's good to have expectations. It's good to have goals. But, and I see it quite a bit, some people have goals that are just lofty as, which is fine in itself. But you've really got to understand, first of all, the amount of effort it takes, the amount you have to take on board and be good at in order, as you go through the incremental stages. One thing I always talk to, especially my tauira here at Wharewaranga, but I do it with all the tauira that I work with, is to try and remove the unnecessary distractions in your life, because if you can remain centred and in that space of learning, even if it's just for periods or blocks of time a day, it's way more valuable than spending years at it, which on the flip hand, you get some of the tauira that I work with at Te Wānanga Aotearoa who come in part-time. What you would think was part-time. So maybe once a week they'll come in and then we'll sit with them on a wānanga for the weekend, for a weekend a month. So it's basically part-time study. Because they go part-time, they have a bit more distraction in their life. And when I say distraction, I don't mean it in a bad sense. I mean, they've got more things on their plate to deal with. Whereas, say, if a student is able to free themselves up, then they're obviously, of course, able to spend more energy and time into it. Just identify where your goals might be if you want to be a language learner, or if you are a language learner, or if you were on the waka and you want to return to the waka. That's always a good place to start with. What sort of can you afford to move off your plate in terms of, and I'll leave it at distraction, but that doesn't mean it's a bad thing.
Pai tū, pai hinga, nā wai rā kauti. Anei te punua pāoho o Paewhiri.
I think one of us mentioned that whakataua ki patua te ngārara o te whakamā. And Nairo, had you had kind of a slightly different take on the word whakamā? Because I've definitely gone through that real anxiety. Let's be honest. It's something that when you growled 20 years ago for something you've spoken te reo Māori, kind of, you kind of carry that feeling. So, but now, obviously, now I'm much, much better. But this whole thing around being a little bit scared to speak te reo Māori around people that you may not know, like strangers or your new tauira mates or your kaiako. How do you overcome something like that?
Yeah, I guess the fear inside that kaupapa is the possibility that people are seen at a time when they're vulnerable and they may not be prepared at that time to deal with that. That's a legitimate experience. There's nothing good or bad about it. But a lot of my experience would tell me that's kind of the barrier that holds them back mostly initially from oversharing at that time, because of course there's trust levels that need to be established in order for them to feel safe with their vulnerability. I talked about that a couple of weeks ago. But Kiriama made a really good point, and it's something that I think strongly into my own practice as a kaiako, is that the emotional side of the learning journey, I think you need to have a relationship with. You need to you need to be able to communicate with those emotions, because those emotions communicate with you. And sometimes the voices are strong and overbearing. And it's not, in my view, being strong and overbearing back. It's just understanding the relationship that we have in our centered selves with things that go on with us emotionally during that period. Some people call it wairua. Some people call it energy, ihi, at that time. I guess my languaging around it is to have a relationship with these things that are going on with you emotionally. And I think that just furthers understanding around yourself, which may not necessarily fold over into a Māori language space. But I think if you're coming in with a bit more of a, a bit more of an established relationship around your emotional self, there's a greater level of understanding when those things start to bubble up. Like for myself, I know at times I get super excited and my thinking just goes out the window.
Hey, and
super excited.
I can totally relate to that.
And you know, and that's sort of like what people would say, they're getting carried away with it.
Carried away.
I get like that.
Yeah.
And sometimes I just reach a point where I'm not thinking anything, and just go with the flow. Go with the flow.
Go with the
flow.
But that takes a bit of reflection to understand what's going on there. And it's not necessarily that I want to rein it back in at that time. It's just understanding in the moment. Sort of sitting in the eye of the storm.
Yeah, I was going to
and
say
being
that.
able to just detach a bit. So, I'm really going for gold here. Whatever the emotion is, whatever the experience is at the time, and then to be able to say, okay, cool, that's not going to hurt anyone. That's not going to be detrimental. Let's just see where it ends. And then other times it's, okay, this is not helpful, either for myself or anyone else. I realise I could be speaking from a bit of a moral high horse here, but this is just me. These are the things.
Yeah,
these are my processes, and I have really good colleagues who view things totally differently and way at the opposite end.
Yes, and it's fun. We obviously, our kōrero is our kōrero. We want to share this kōrero.
Share the kōrero.
Share the love, share the kōrero, share the love of te reo.
It's all
love. But, we are talking about, i nei momo haerenga. Matua, have you... Yeah, I mean...
Rongo i te whakamā.
You know, Matua, you're so lax back in your
It's like Master Ugwe over here, te whānau. We need a photo of this.
And you've talked about situations where you've been on the marae, maybe somewhere outside of Tauranga, where they've said, you're going to be the kai kōrero, and you're like, Carl, just plain and simple, Carl. I mean, do those moments, does it bring any whakamā or just none of that?
For me, it's not whakamā. When I see older kaumātuas that are sitting on the same seat as I am, to me it's about respect. And I sooner give the rākau to them because they have more to give than I have, because they've been on this planet longer than I have. They know more people that are alive now and people that have gone. And so they can take their kōrero back to that time with those people. Whereas, being younger, I can't go that far. So it's best to hear the stories from them than from me.
Yeah.
And one of my kaumātuas always used to say to me, kai te hara mai te wā mahu. Your time is coming.
Your time is coming, yes.
I tēnei ki wā, me whakātuhia ke tēnei mea te whakaute ki o pakeke. Show some respect to your elders, say. And so that's been mine all the time. But now that they're all gone, or when they did pass, then that was my time. Not so much to shine, but to carry on their legacy. And to this time, now I've handed it on to my nephews and to my son to carry it on. It's a generational thing.
Yeah.
The taonga that we get from them, we hold it for a short period, then we give to the next generation, and hopefully they'll pass it on and on. Yeah. But I do remember, I followed a lot of them around all over the place because I used to be their driver, and they'd ring me up.
And them's your elders, your kaumātua?
All the kaumātuas had a van full of them. From whānau apa nui te whakatohea, Ngāti aua tū hoi, hare atu ki roto i a Ngāpuhi nui tonu ne, i wetahi hui. And went to one marae up there, and the haramai ki konei. When they're setting them, because, You don't ask questions. When they say do something, you do it. So I sat there, and the rākau came over to us, and then my uncle gives me a jab in the side. He tūewa. And I thought he was joking, and I started laughing. And then they all turned around and looked at me, and they all, etu. You know, and my knees were knocking, the whakamā went away to the mataku.
Yes.
But I ended up doing it, and I was thankful for it because it opened the door for me. You know, and then from that day on, the whakamā and the mataku disappeared. Yeah, just from that one experience of being, dare I say it, shit scared. Because it all depends who's in front of you. You know, if there's some well-known kaumātuas on the other side, you know, it's quite intimidating. And, yeah, you know, to stand in front of them and, you know, you're looking up at Ragi Nui, oh, drop me some kupu, please, and looking down at Papa Tuanuku, hey, kai hea ngā kupu, he te whai āwhina I ahau. But,
I love that.
I mea mai kei taku karanga pāpai ki ahau heo koe, mo hio koe ki te kara kia, ana, he taku, mai I tō ngākau, ne,
Kia ora.
tuku atu kia rere, tuku atu tō wairua kia rere, ara, kai reira ke ngā kupu hei āwhina I a koe.
Pai tū, pai hinga, pai whiri.
Our kaupapa is te reo Māori. I'm at another, I think, well, now that I'm in my late 40s, you know, this age, there's a sense of, well, who else is going to do it? Ko ai, kei muri nei I ahau. And I'm like, well, ko tērā. There's a sense of kind of urgency and this thing of, well, tukua, ko koe, you know, you're here, it's in the now and the moment, who else is going to do it? If not me, then who? So this whole, oh no, I'll wait for my auntie. Well, my aunties are sitting there going, no, you go and do the karanga. So I'm in that kind of phase.
I've had instances where I've seen men sitting in their vehicles in the car park, just waiting for a kai kōrero to come. And yet they could speak. You know, but they sit there and wait for kaumātu to come. Then you see them all getting out of their cars and they bring in their koho, the kaumātua, and yeah. So I don't know whether that's whakamau mataku.
Yeah, ka pai tērā. Pai ki te whakarongo ki nā whiako o te pakeke. Because, you know, I guess it's important to hear the experiences of different generations because we all go through, funnily enough, the same set of emotional responses. There's a bit of whakamā sometimes. In that instance, I get the same thing when you drive into a tangi.
Yes.
You're steering around. Oh, looks like we're looks like we're lone wolfing. Hun, did you practice your karanga? And she's like, no, I'm staying in the car. But pai ana. And koenei pia tetahi o aku tino kōrero ki aku tauira, especially te wananga o Aotearoa, because I teach the what do you call them, advanced intermediate students. Ko taku pānui kia rātou I tēnei wāhanga o te tau ia tau, kua mutu tā koutou noho noiho. Moiho koutou ki te kōrero, start prepping now.
Yeah.
And there's no more going to hui, and you don't know anything. Because if people know you can speak and you know better, you're it. Snap out of this, kei te ora tonu taku tuakana, is your tuakana there? Is Nan there? Is koro there? And it's like you said, if they're not there, who's up? You're up. And pai ki etahi, some are already prepped and in that mind space. Others, it's like, and so they have a little bit of a further bit of planning within their own situation themselves. But this is not to throw them under the bus. This is to help people realise that yes, you haere mai koe ki te ako I te reo, and there's always two things that pop their head up with the Māori language space. Some come to learn the language, some come for some sort of linked political motivation there. You know, they want to contribute to the kaupapa. And these things sometimes aren't reconciled towards the end where they become quite competent. I'll say fluent, But then, of course, the competency of that fluency is something that is always built on. And it could be unfair. I'll take some feedback from my tauira. I'm happy to.
But you're
I
just
probably
saying,
won't
hey,
listen.
be prepared.
I'm
Be
just saying
prepared.
the expectation in terms of holding on to this taonga is that you contribute.
Aye.
And if that means you get up and do karakia e rahui, you're doing it. There's no argument. Start prepping now. But, still get the blocks from, I didn't bring a skirt. Hey, you've been my student for 5 years. That is not the kōrero I want to hear. You go pick something up, or you get out there with your tarau and do a karanga. Because in my mind, and I've had this kōrero with them, they should come prepped. And I think that in a sense is around some of those issues that some of our pakeke are whakamā. Or they're not that confident.
Yeah.
And rather than keep spreading, I guess, the obligation that contributes more to their sense of whakamā. Here's some that are being prepped in that space. Let them take over until we can build those that are willing to be built.
He te
Coalition
whānau.
of the willing.
So if you've just joined into Paewhiri, we're just talking about all these really interesting spaces when it comes to te reo Māori, overcoming some of the emotions, not, dealing or handling the emotions that comes with speaking te reo Māori. And, pai tēnei kōrero.
Sorry, and I know we've got to cut to
No.
an end, but it does raise other issues because by and large, when I have this sort of kōrero with people, they're not kaumātua, they're not pakeke, they're not even on the paipai on their own marae. So they have other things that they need to contend with in those spaces around becoming a familiar face in those spaces and contributing at whatever level is appropriate for them at the time of which the marae or the hapu or the whānau will support them with in terms of building them through those stages. Sometimes they get thrown straight to the front. Other times they have to do some due diligence in the back with a bit of titaotanga. Yeah, but I think you've got to have the discussion with your whānau, you've got to have the discussion with the marae. You've got to show up.
Ka pai, tēnā tātou. Coming up, more kōrero.
Pai tū, pai hinga, pai kare, pai whiri.
E te iwi nau mai hoki mai, welcome back to Paewhiri for our final segment, Final Whaka.
Oh, neaty.
Oh,
Ka
you
pai.
got my job now.
So,
Kei a koe taku tūranga
Aia. Aia. Kau. No, you're not allowed to stay in your car and not do final whakaro.
usually Matua Te Kiwi does that for us. So every episode at Te Whānau, we wrap up with a final whakaro. So that's what you'll hear at the end of this Paewhiri. Okay, final whakaro. We've talked about what are the myriad of ways of learning te reo Māori, and you might find this helpful to the listeners out there. Our whare wānanga whare wānanga, to reading, to in the home with Matua Te Kiwi. So ātārangi is another course, and my final whakaro is, mena kai te rata koe ki te reo, he tangata nākau tūwhera ki te ako i te reo Māori, kia kaha, kia maia, kia manawanui. Te wiki o te reo Māori, 50 years
Ooh, wow.
this year e te whānau. Oh, so and go onto the website. The website is, let me just quickly get this up. www.reomaori.co.nz. Ake, which also happens to be what Ngairo is wearing at the moment. Yes, a t-shirt, a shirt with ake on it. Beautiful. Final whakaro.
Final whakaro.
Staring at me.
Yep, that's the final whakaro. No whakaro.
I was in Disneyland. Final whakaro. Different horses for different courses. So if you're following the trail of the reo, jump on the horse that suits you the best. No reira, kia kahara koutou ki te eke te hoiho o te reo.
Love it.
I'm loving these metaphors today. Yeah, kōrero mo te hoiho, tētahi reihi hoiho, tētahi he hoiho tarawhi, tētahi he hiho.
Hiho, tarawhi, hea te kupu Māori mo stallion.
Tariana.
Tariana, hoi ho tariana. Oh, neat.
Oh, tēnā koe.
What about a pony? Kia te kupu mai mo pony.
Pony.
Punua.
Punua.
Punua hoiho.
Ah, neat.
E kāwhi.
Kāwhi.
Oh, what do you call them? Foals, eh?
Foals. Nai ro with our final whakaaro.
Tēnā nō koutou e te iwi, tēnā koutou tātou. If you are thinking about a te reo Māori hikoi, kia kahara ki a koe. If you're in the hikoi, kia kahara ki a koe. If you're out of the hikoi and you want to get back into the hikoi, kia kahara ki a koe. I'll just speak briefly to some of the challenges because we've spent a lot of time on it, so I think I'll wrap up with a little bit. There are challenges with everything, and there's challenges with learning te reo Māori, and there's plenty of things that are hard about it, but there's also plenty of things that are hugely rewarding. And this isn't about if you want the treats, you got to do the mahi. This is about there's always going to be things that are hard about it and difficult through the process of learning a language. So be kind to yourself while you're walking through some of that mamaitanga,
Kia ora.
and you will find invariably that the hard things you walk into, once you make a start, they don't seem so hard after all. It may not feel like it. You might feel like you're walking through an incinerator at times, but you will look back and think, wow, yeah, I did it. Okay, it was tough, but I made it through. And I always have this kōrero with my tauira, especially the ones at whare wānanga, who at the beginning of the year, they really struggled to comprehend anything I'm saying, like tēnā koe. And then, 3 or 4 months down the track, we're having a conversation. They're listening to me by and large most of the time, but they can follow me. And it's good to just take stock of your progress to help you
Kia ora.
through those difficult stages there, Hoama, because even an inch forward is an inch you didn't have the other day. So every little bit of progress just makes you a bit further along on the journey. Kia kahara kia koutou e te iwi, ko Paewhiri tēnei, mihi nei kia koutou. Koutou, I tahuri mai ki te whakarongo ki tā mātou kaupapa. Engari he kaupapa nō tātou ko tō tātou reo whakatairanga hiake, ake, huri noa, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa.
Pai tū, pai hinga, pai whiri.